Well, we'll be looking forward to it, and we will be there. The four of us will be on the set in Cleveland with you next Thursday night as we bring you round one of the NFL draft. And then, of course, Friday night and Saturday, we have it as well. ESPN, ABC, and the NFL Network, all with coverage of the NFL draft from Cleveland. Starts 1 week from tonight. Guys, thank you for getting up here. How much fun was this? We'll see you tomorrow. First Take starts now.
You know, I think the biggest thing that we all saw that is accountability. And I think the toughest part for us all is that, you know, there was still a life lost. And I don't know. You know, everybody thinks, you know, because of the verdict, everything is right in the world, but it's not. It's not. There's still a lot of things going on that are unjust, you know, and I send my prayers and wishes out to Ma'Khia Bryant and her family. You know, you think you're getting through one thing and then another thing occurs.
Good morning and welcome into First Take. Thank you so much for being with us, gentlemen. Let's get right into this here. You just heard Chris Paul talking about Ma'Khia Bryant. She was a 16-year-old who was shot and killed by a Columbus, Ohio police officer Tuesday after lunging at two people while she was holding a knife. The officer could be heard on videotape shouting several times to get down before firing 4 shots. LeBron posted and later deleted a tweet yesterday showing a photo of the officer who shot Bryant with accompanying caption, "You're next, #accountability," along with an hourglass emoji. Some more tweets from LeBron that I want to continue with here. He added, "I'm so damn tired of seeing black people killed by police. I took the tweet down because it's being used to create more hate. This isn't about one officer. It's about the entire system. And they always use our words to create more racism. I am so desperate for more accountability." Meanwhile, the National Fraternal Order of Police condemned LeBron's tweet with this response: "At King James, with his vast resources and influence, should educate himself and, frankly, has a responsibility to do so on the facts before weighing in. This is disgraceful and extremely reckless. The officer saved a young girl's life. No amount of gaslighting will change that fact." Stephen A., I'll start with you here. What did you think of LeBron's overall response?
I appreciated the response that he put out there in the aftermath of his initial tweet. But we're about fairness. I know that I am. And the National Fraternal Order of Police, in terms of their statement that you just put up, were right. And it is crushing for me to say that, because LeBron is the standard bearer. He has been pretty close to impeccable as an athlete, incredibly responsible, incredible role model in so many different ways. And this should not, you know, dilute all the great things that he has done and will continue to do off the court. But in this particular instance, he didn't do his homework before he put out that tweet. I saw the video. Now, I don't believe the officer should have fired 4 shots. I don't believe Ma'Khia Bryant should be dead. I think that when you take into consideration some of the things that I've listed in the past in terms of Dylan Roof shooting 9 folks in a church with a nationwide manhunt out for him, but somehow, some way he gets arrested, and a guy goes into Colorado supermarket in Colorado and kills 10 people, but ends up arrested, but unarmed black men end up getting shot and killed. Somebody needs to explain that to me. And that contributes to the heightened level of frustration that the LeBron James of the world, the Chris Pauls of the world, and so many others in the community, in the black community, period, have been lamenting for far too long. Certainly something needs to be done about that, but you have to be careful about lumping everything into the same category, because there are people that obviously have their take on it that's different from what the black community and those who support what has been transpiring as it pertains to some of these shootings of unarmed black folks, you know, in terms of the support that they provided to minority communities, to the African-American communities. Their take is different. And so if you're LeBron James, considering your potency, over 49 million followers on Twitter, over 82 million followers on Instagram, clearly not just shutting up and dribble, but taking a stance and addressing issues with the fervor that it so richly deserves, it doesn't negate the responsibility that you have to know what you're talking about, which LeBron James usually does. He's usually reluctant, Max, and hesitant to speak up and speak out until he researches the facts. In this case, clearly, he had not done so, which he openly admitted. She had a knife. She was wielding the knife. The officer doesn't just have a right to protect himself. He has an obligation to protect other folks in the community. And she was wielding a knife and about to stab someone when that officer elected to shoot her. Now, me personally, I still think you could have found a way to make sure the girl didn't end up dead, for crying out loud. There had to be another way, a taser, maybe shooting her in the leg or something. I mean, for her to end up dead is just egregious to me. But for LeBron James to put out a tweet and basically says, no, not basically, literally, you're next. I firmly believe that what LeBron was talking about is just like Derek Chauvin had his day in court, jury of his peers, 12 jurors, all right, that convicted him. That's the kind of accountability LeBron was alluding to. But for cynics, critics, and haters of LeBron James, he left himself open for interpretation, because not only did he say you're next and then said accountability, which I love the word accountability, the problem is he posted the officer's picture too. In other words, some could argue you were trying to make him a target. I don't believe that for 1 second. I don't believe that's what LeBron James was doing. I believe that in almost all of the situations, LeBron is incredibly smart and thoughtful, and he doesn't just react emotionally. And he's an incredible role model, and I hope he continues to be. But this was not his brightest moment, because he left the door open for the level of scrutiny that will undoubtedly come his way, because as he admitted, he did not have all the facts. And, you know, the Fraternal Order of Police, their statement, unfortunately, in this instance, was on the money. They were not wrong with what they said.
First of all, LeBron's tweet, let me be very clear about this, obviously means to anyone with even a below average IQ and any semblance of education at all, like you have to be living on another planet or not understand basic language to know what your next means. Are we coming out of a situation where there was vigilante mob justice against police? No. We're coming on the heels of a situation where a cop who murdered someone on camera was tried and convicted of all charges. So obviously, clearly, that's what LeBron is referring to. Number one, that's what he's referring to. And politicians who would use this for political gain, or let me rephrase that. Politicians who would instead lead people to believe that what LeBron was doing was attempting to incite violence either suffer from extremely low comprehension or are lying to their constituents to curry political favor. One or the other, stupid or corrupt, right? Like, that's what it is. Now, let me just say, LeBron acknowledged he made a mistake, Stephen A. He didn't gather all the facts ahead of time. He jumped to a conclusion, and he took down the tweet. So reaction to LeBron saying, wait a minute, what do you want this officer to do? Whatever you think, hey, the officer didn't have to use deadly force. That is a teenager. She already dropped the knife. Whatever it is, it's unclear, and I've watched the video, exactly what happened. Some of it's blurred out. But what is clear is that there's a point of view that is easily seen as legitimate, that, wait a minute, an officer responds to a scene, a girl is being attacked by another girl with a knife, he takes out the threat, so to speak, and obviously, unfortunately, that threat was a teenage girl, right? It is not a good issue. It's not a pleasant issue to look at it, however you look at it. But the point is, for LeBron to immediately assume guilt on the part of the officer, people took exception to. Now, how did LeBron respond, Stephen A? Did he double down and say, no, to hell with you? No, he took down the tweet and he said he has to do more research. That's a legitimate response to someone who maybe didn't act perfectly in the first place. That's a legitimate response. I've also seen takes that LeBron was, quote unquote, doxing the officer. People apparently don't understand what that means. Doxing refers to when you release information that was heretofore not publicly known about someone, directing the mob's ire toward them. LeBron did not release private information and now made it public and tried to incite a mob toward violence toward an individual. Not at all. He said accountability. Stephen A., you brought this up. All caps, hashtag accountability. No, you are on camera, he seemed to be saying. You were caught in the commission of doing something bad, which is now legitimately disputed. And he's acknowledged that it's legitimately disputed. That was his mistake. You caused something bad. And now you're next. In other words, there was just a situation where an officer killed a black person. It was caught on camera. They were tried and convicted. That is clear. So what is happening now, it seems to me, Stephen A., is LeBron reacted before the facts were out, admitted that he did so, and now it is being used as a political football in bad faith. That's what seems to me to be happening.
First of all, Max, you're absolutely right with everything that you said, but you're missing the boat. And it's primarily because of things that you've articulated on many occasions in the past. When you sit up there and you say there are politicians lying to constituents to curry favor with them, I think that's a very legitimate point in some cases, without question. When you talk about LeBron James' intent, you're right on the money. I said it before you said it. We totally agree. That's not the issue. The issue is the fodder you provided for those on the other side of the aisle. Now, I'm not talking politics here. I'm talking about for those who disagree with LeBron James, for those who are on the attack, for those who were looking for something, an excuse. He gave it to them because he didn't educate himself about the issue before he spoke, which is something he almost never does. So do I believe that this is something that should have a residual impact and a longing effect where people get to use this as an excuse to condemn LeBron James? Hell no. What he has meant to our community, what he does where his heart lies, speaks for itself. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, even though you and I both know it shouldn't happen, we know it's going to. And in likelihood, because of it, it ain't going to affect LeBron, who's damn near a billionaire. It ain't going to affect the LeBron who lives in Brentwood, even though racial epithets were sprayed on his gate. It's not going to affect LeBron James by and large. But the average person in that community, when you sit up there and you tweet out the face of the officer and you say you're next and you say your accountability, even though we know what he meant, the fact is they're going to say they didn't know. And oh, by the way, it's not just politicians lying to their constituency. It's a constituency that doesn't need the politicians to lie to them because that's what they want to believe anyway. One of the issues that we have, even when we take into account all the things that African Americans endure in this country, what do I religiously say? The demonization of black people, primarily black men, but black people overall. And this attitude that you have and what you must think about black folks, and you're constantly viewing us as a threat. Well, guess what? This doesn't necessarily help, because you're going to have people out there that look at that and say, you see, that's why the police got to watch themselves, because now they're being targeted and they're law enforcement. I, for
Stephen,
one,
I'd
and
like
one
to
person
respond.
that I've been on, I'm going to let you to. I'm one of those people that was like this. Look, man, I condemn the police officers who engage in heinous acts. I don't paint all of law enforcement with a broad brush, because I've dialed 911. My family has dialed 911. My friends and people in my community have dialed 911. When trouble happens, we dial a 911. I'm not going to castigate everybody, but understand that that's the concern that you constantly have to deal with. And for him to put out the tweet, prematurely, unfortunately, none of us are perfect. I'm not condemning him. I just know they will. And I know they're going to use it. And we're not going to be able to argue about their point of how wrong he initially was.
I imagine one of the most offended groups, obviously black people given the history of this country, but one of the most offended groups, I imagine, by the Chauvin stuff are good police. So I hear what you're saying, Stephen A., And I also agree that given LeBron James's profile and leadership position, his standard of behavior, he's held to a different standard of behavior. And he needs to consider those things. You're right, which is why I started by saying I thought he did make a mistake. But he acknowledged the mistake. He did not double down. Even take Mark Davis a couple days ago, right? He said, I can breathe. He was pointed out what it might. He said, well, I have to do more research, but left the tweet pinned, left it up and pinned, right? Didn't have the humility even to take it down. And I defended Mark Davis, the part where I think he's trying to be an ally.
Gotcha.
LeBron James acknowledged it. We are not asking LeBron to be perfect because we are all human and none of us will be perfect. And insofar as mistakes go, this was a relatively benign one. It was understandable given the righteous indignation that people feel right now. Given the fact, I said relatively benign, given the circumstances, given the fact that he called for accountability, meaning legal accountability, obviously, given the fact that the context in which it occurred, police interactions with communities of color, that ongoing issue, the fact you can understand where someone gets very emotional as soon as they heard
the people who want to hold it against them going to hold it
by
against
police.
Yes or no?
Right. So
what are they going to do?
I'm getting to that. So what I would say is you're right about that point. LeBron is not perfect. He made a mistake. He took steps to correct it. I would end with this. I would be suspicious of those who demonstrate more outrage toward LeBron today than they did toward Derek Chauvin over the last several months.
And I'm saying to you, count them in the millions, because millions were looking for an excuse to do so. And that's the problem.
Yeah, I'll just leave it with this. You're both right, Stephen A. There wasn't enough research. It was premature. And Max, he handled it like a pro, and he took the tweet down. And I think that Mark Davis example was so pertinent, which we discussed yesterday on the show. Gentlemen, we're definitely going to get back into this subject later in the show, but we're going to go on the court next and talk a little.
Season in the league. Okay.
No, now.
Okay, I'm talking about now.
Yes.
No. Steph Curry. But
right now.
Max Kellerman and Molly Qerim Rose, please excuse me for diverting my attention away from the Golden State Warriors for a second here. First of all, I want to take a moment to give props to Mr. Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal, because I love me some Bradley Beal, and the Washington Wizards, winners of 6 straight. And if the playoffs will begin today, they're the 10th seed. They're in the play-in game. Okay, so they would have a shot to make the playoffs. Props to them for that, okay? But Max Kellerman, they're not the ones possessing the largest winning streak in the NBA right now. You know who that is, Max? You know who that is?
Here it comes.
Did you hear the news?
We're going to talk about this later.
The New York Knicks, okay? I just wanted to point that out there, ladies and gentlemen. They're a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference right now. The New York Knicks. Oh, this is just beautiful. This is a special day.
Oh, my God.
Now let me get we get into the Knicks later. Now let me get to Steph Curry. Over the course of the last 11 games, he never shot less than 45% from the field. Only twice did he shoot less than 40% from like 3-point range, so twice or 3 times in that 11-game stretch. The dude is phenomenal. And again, the ball handling skills are there, the passing skills are there. The movement without the basketball is something he should be applauded. I mean, the dude is 33 years old, in incredible condition, runs all over the court. He's built himself up. He's got a little bigger, Max, in case you haven't noticed. The physique is bigger now. He's not just this little kid that can shoot. No, he's a grown man now and looks the part. But when you think about his ability to spread the floor, like I told you, from the moment he steps past half court, you have to guard him. That just spreads defenses out and opens up the floor for your entire offense. And when I think about him being the greatest offensive player, that's where that stuff comes from. It comes from that. And that's why I have so much love for him as a player, because I see his impact, how he affects the game because of the spacing that he creates. So what last night happens, that's a given. You get tired, you've been on a road trip, it's no big deal. He'll be back. But he deserves to be applauded for the greatness that he's put on display.
He's one of the greatest offensive players in the NBA, but the burden of proof is not on me. Did he prove that he is the best player in the NBA offensively? No, he did not. Number one, Kevin Durant, when he is healthy, is a better offensive player than Steph Curry. They played on the same team. I saw it. KD was the number one offensive option. Forget about defense for a second, right? KD's a better offensive player than Steph Curry. That's one. So there's one guy right there. James Harden, I think, is it. Look, what Steph is doing is it's close among these guys, and what he's doing is miraculous. You want to argue Steph over Harden? All right. But I'll take Harden based on what I've seen this year. No, he can't shoot like Steph. No one can, ever, right? But Harden can really shoot. He can score from anywhere. He's physically stronger than Steph, and he's actually better running an offense. You know, in Houston, I thought he was worse because the ball doesn't stick with Steph. As you said, he moves without the ball. He can play on and off, and he's really a shooting guard, a two guard, trapped in a point guard's body. James Harden's conducting of an offense, orchestrating of an offense this season was as masterful as any you ever want to see by LeBron James or Magic Johnson or anyone. And he's one of the greatest scorers of all time. I think I would give Harden this year, I'm surprised to be saying it, a slight edge over Steph. And then there's Lillard, who can do everything Steph can do, not quite as well until it matters most. And I value high leverage moments. So Lillard is right there. And I'll tell you another guy we haven't been talking about, Stephen A., Jokic. This man is averaging over 26, 11, and 9. He's shooting better than 40% from three. He's a better passer than Steph, and he's a center. I think that Jokic is this year's probably the best offensive player overall, trailing maybe only James Harden when Harden's been healthy. So I think Steph is way up there, but I wouldn't put him number one.
Well, first of all, Max Kellerman, if you're going to bring up numbers, particularly when it comes to Jokic, well, you know what? Let's stop talking about Michael Jordan as the greatest. Let's put Kareem Abdul-Jabbar up there. Let's listen to Isaiah Thomas, who put Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 19-time All-Star, 6-time league MVP, 6-time champion, the greatest scorer in the history of basketball, the all-time leading scorer, et cetera, et cetera. We still don't put him ahead of Michael Jordan because we exercise something called the eye test, too. And so as a result, we know better. That's number one. Number two, when you talk about Steph Curry and you compare him to Kevin Durant, I know that Kevin Durant's a better offensive player, but what do I say? Kevin Durant is more efficient. One thing that Kevin Durant lacks is the assertiveness, the aggression, because that's a big, big thing. He wants to play the right way. Excuse me. Oh, my goodness, I almost happened to sneeze. But that's what Kevin Durant likes to do.
I told you we need a vaccination for pollen. Sorry to interrupt.
Tell me about it. It is pollen. Pollen's in your nose is stuffy, and I got a sinus headache, too. But I'm all right. Here's the deal.
It's so bad.
When you look at it, Kevin Durant, I know that Kevin Durant is a better offensive player. I think he's the best player on the planet when healthy, me personally. But what I'm saying is that Kevin Durant will gladly defer and be a bit deferential and not be as assertive or aggressive. When Steph Curry goes out there, he's not only a marksman, he has a marksman's mentality. And that's what I say right now when you look at his level of efficiency. At this particular moment in time, the efficiency combined with the aggression is what puts them there.
Fair point, because Jordan wasn't you could say, oh, this guy's as efficient or more efficient, but Michael Jordan had more aggression, was a better offensive player. That's a fair point. I'll still take KD's offense. But Jokic and the eyeball test comparing Kareem and Jordan, I don't like that at all, because first of all, Steph ain't Michael Jordan. And second of all, Kareem is the guy Jordan really had to pass for a lot of people to be considered the greatest. And Jokic is not playing just like a center. Stephen A., he's bringing the ball up. He's initiating the offense. He's bombing from three. He's a load on the inside. He's doing everything.
He ain't better than Steph Curry.
All right. Guys, let's leave it there. So we're praising Steph Curry for making shots. How about Joel Embiid almost making a shot? Did you see it? 76er star narrowly missing what would arguably be the best game-tying buzzer beater in NBA history, inches away from the most impressive game-tying shot. Max, how good was Embiid's shot attempt?
It's the best miss I've ever seen on an NBA level. I can think about Vince Carter with the alley-oop that he got too high up for and everything like that at UNC. But at an NBA level, that's the best miss of all time. Guys, first of all, Embiid hitting threes toward the end of that game even put them in a position to maybe steal it. And then look at this. The length of the court, to tie the game against an excellent team, it doesn't just go in and out. It goes in, halfway down, and out. I have not. Maybe I've seen something like it. I don't remember it. If I have, that's the best miss I've ever seen.
That's the difference between Max and I. I don't think about misses. I think about makes. I can give a damn. I don't have the slightest clue what the greatest miss was. Okay, I guess you can put Gordon Hayward in a national championship game for Butler against Duke in there if you want to. I mean, you could do that. Okay, I don't think about misses. I think about makes. Okay, so I don't have the slightest damn clue. You know what happened with in terms of the greatest misses. I couldn't begin, and I've been covering the NBA for damn near a quarter century. I couldn't begin to tell you what the greatest miss was. I don't remember because they missed.
Well, you're missing it.
Yes, I am.
Oh my God.
Big time.
Oh my God. All right, are we done on
He's
that?
right.
I think we're
He's
done.
right. I'm missing it. I'm missing it. I mean, is there analytics? Did the analytics department come up with a stat for the greatest misses? I mean, if anybody would know that, it would be Max.
Stephen A.
It would be Max.
You're so caught up in analytics. This is the eyeball test, Stephen A.
Yeah, please. Well, you would know something about eyeballs.
Okay.
There's no question about that.
All right, Stephen A's missing it, and I'm trying to make it happen over here and keep the show.
I mean, this is the draft process. So, I don't make the decisions. The only thing I can control is, me training and working out and stuff like that. I can't control that. It'll be good to be a Steeler. At the end of the day, I just want to know where I'm setting up shop at for the next couple of years and what colors I'll be wearing. If it is the Steelers, then, I'll be more than happy, But like I said, I can't control stuff like that.
Don't let Stephen A. try to send you to a place with no offensive line, Najee.
No.
Look, you're one of the most well-rounded. You're one of the most well-rounded backs coming out of college I can remember at your height and size, athletic ability, jumping over guys, catching passes, the whole thing. What is it you want to show on the next level in your rookie year, wherever you wind up?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I want to show. I want to start off with, saying that, for a bigger back, at 6'2", 230, there's a lot of things that people say that they can't do, like, not being agile, not being utilized in the pass game. Maybe just like a bruiser back, he's not really good in open space. All these things, the stereotypes that they say about, a bigger back. And, so I want to show that, one, I could do all that. I want to show, too, that, the need of a running back, they say a lot of stuff about, don't pick a running back in the first round, blah, blah, blah. Like, I want to show that, that is still, to me, like the most important positions on the field of having a really good back who you can utilize in the pass game, and you can utilize with blocking and stuff like that too, protecting the quarterback and short down and distance situations. So, for me to show that, they keep saying, the drop off of a running back is not that important. A big back can do all this stuff right here. I want to, prove all that stuff of my rookie year too, and just me being in the league of showing that, the value of a running back is still important, and a running back who's that big and stuff like that can be utilized just as a scat back, as a little back, and can be used in all three downs for sure.
Najee, obviously players make the game, players make programs. We understand that, and you're big time, and I think you would have been big time no matter where you played. But I must ask you, because you see the plethora of players coming from Alabama as first-round picks and what have you. You know how fond I am of the great Nick Saban. Can you talk to me about and tell us something about the Alabama program? Like, is there something about this program, that just gets you prepared? I mean, we look at it and we say, obviously, they get you prepared for the NFL. But is there something special about this program being at Alabama that you could crystallize for a lot of people that we may not realize about the program?
Yeah, man. So for me, I'm a real grinder. I really love competition. So me coming out, I was the number one, whatever, recruit or something like that, But, for me to go to Alabama where they bring in, the number one DB, the number one linebacker, the number one defensive lineman, the competition level in practice is almost greater than the game. Because, you're going up against all these guys who's future first rounders, future Hall of Famers, future all pro, all this talent that's coming there. So, just me being in practice will be almost as hard as the game because I'm going against all these guys. And these guys, I mean, they're coming down hitting on defense. You know, like Minka, you got Razor, you know, you got Mac Wilson, you got Deron Payne, you got all these guys coming there, you know, and really laying the wood. So, you know, for me to get that in practice, and then when I'm in the game, you know, I'm going up against, you know, all these other, you know, talent. It's just in practice. I'm already used to it. That's one thing. Another thing is like, you know, we're bringing all type of NFL guys in there. You know, we got Sarkisian, who came from the Falcons. We got Brian Dable, who's at Buffalo Bills now. You know, we bring all these NFL guys, and they try to make it, you know, the offense as NFL ready as possible. So, you know, me learning all these things there in college that now translate into NFL. I'm going to all these Zoom meetings in NFL, and I just know all of the things like this because, you know, we learned all that in practice. We learned all that in film. You know, we learned all that on game day. It just translates so well into the NFL that, you know, sometimes, you know, I wouldn't even prepare for these. I would just know it already because, like, you know, it's the same terminology as we use. It's just different names. So, you know, for them to get us ready to play at the next level, if that's what you want to do, for them to bring in all the guys that they do and you like competing, then, I mean, Alabama's hands down the number one place you want to go for sure to get you ready for the next level.
I wanted to ask you about the Miami Dolphins because I seen you projected to go there at 18, and I love you on the Dolphins. That would be a problem, but I want to piggyback on something that Stephen A. just asked you and that you answered, which is, you know, you it's not like you didn't play as a freshman, but you were behind a lot of really good backs, including Josh Jacobs. Do you think, looking back, were you ready to, like, could you have started as a freshman? Or do you like the way it works at Alabama because they are so deep, you don't get as many carries until you're really ready to do your thing? How would you answer that?
I mean, like I said, I'm always a competitor. I feel like, you know, I'm always ready to play. It was a new offense. It was a new scheme that, you know, me coming out of high school. But, you know, I was always ready to play. Actually, they threw me in there my freshman year in the national championship game. And that's the biggest game of the year. That's what everybody practiced and played for. And we wasn't winning by a lot. We was losing by almost like 3 touchdowns. You know, they threw me and a couple other freshman guys in there. So, you know, to answer that question, do I feel like I was ready to play? 100%. You know, I went in there. I was juiced. I always just say, like, you know, throw me in the fire. You know what I'm saying? Throw me to the wolves and watch me come back leading the pack. You know, so, you know, they threw me in there. I was excited. I got to, you know, make the most of my opportunities and stuff like that. You know, am I happy that I was coming off the bench like that? No, I don't think any true competitor will be, you know, happy when they feel like they can make an impact playing in the game. But you know, it's really just waiting your turn and learning as much as possible and soaking up as much as you can from the older guys in front of me. Like you said, it was Josh, it was Damian, and it was Bo. You know, so for me to just soak up as much as possible, and then when it's my time to make the most of my opportunity, you know, I'll be ready.
Yeah, I knew you were a good teammate when I heard that Adam Schefter story that your flight got canceled and then you drove 9 hours. 9 hours? Talk about getting stiff to Alabama's pro day and you weren't even working out just to be there for your teammates. That was pretty impressive. But I got a little surprise for you, Najee, before we let you roll. Okay, sir? So we wanted to show you the custom Marvel cover made for your draft profile. What do you think of your powers? Yep, check it out. Your powers being compared to Marvel superhero Blade.
Y'all just said, bro, what? Y'all said Blade?
Yeah.
Let me see, that's dope, though.
That's right.
That's dope,
Yeah,
man.
that's real.
Bro, y'all said Blade. Oh, man, that's dope, man. Who thought of this? Y'all so creative. That's funny, man. I like that, though. That's dope. I want to get a shirt of it or something like that.
Good.
Maybe I'll flip it and start selling it on my website. I'll be dope.
I'm glad you like it. I'm glad we got to surprise you with something. Najee, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate you. And we'll be checking you out at the draft. Good luck.
Steelers, get him.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, guys. Appreciate everything.
Yes, sir. Always his agenda. All right, take care now. Coming up tomorrow, get ready.
To Ma'Khia Bryant and her family. You know, you think you're getting through one thing and then another thing occurs.
Welcome back to First Take. You heard Chris Paul there reference Ma'Khia Bryant. She was the 16-year-old shot and killed by a Columbus, Ohio police officer after lunging at 2 people with a knife. The officer could be heard on videotape shouting several times to get down before firing 4 shots. I have a couple tweets for you. So LeBron James posted and later deleted a tweet yesterday showing a photo of the officer who shot Bryant with accompanying caption, "You're next, #accountability," and the hourglass emoji. Then LeBron later tweeted this: "Anger does any of us any good. That includes myself. Gathering all the facts and educating does, though. My anger still is here for what happened to that little girl. My sympathy for her family, and may justice prevail." He added, "I'm so damn tired of seeing black people killed by police." I took the tweet down because it's being used to create more hate. This isn't about one officer. It's about the entire system, and they always use our words to create more racism. I am so desperate for more accountability. Meanwhile, the National Fraternal Order of Police condemning LeBron's tweet with this: "At King James, with his vast resources and influence, should educate himself and, frankly, has a responsibility to do so on the facts before weighing in. This is disgraceful and extremely reckless. The officer saved a young girl's life. No amount of gaslighting will change that fact." Stephen A., your thoughts on LeBron's overall response?
His overall response is to be commended because, as Max highlighted earlier in the show, he didn't double down. He recognized the mistake that he made with his initial tweet and backtracked and recognized the fact that he needed to do more research and educate himself a bit more about the issues. He is to be applauded for that. I stand with him on that. We all do, in terms of this show. But there are an abundance of people out there who are critics and cynics of LeBron James, who have a different point of view and view the world from a different lens that he does, that were looking for an excuse to point a negative, skeptical, or cynical feeling in his, or finger rather, in his direction, and he handed it to them on a silver platter. The reality is that LeBron James was wrong with his initial tweet. His initial tweet said, "You're next." And then it was a picture of the officer, and it had the word accountability. I'm willing to bet my career all LeBron James meant was, just like Derek Chauvin had his day in court and he was found guilty, you need to be the next one found guilty as a police officer. But then that brings us to the National Fraternal Order of Police. In their statement, and respectfully, I must admit, they were absolutely positively on the money. They didn't say a wrong word. With his influence, with his vast resources, with his power, not only could he have done research, he had a responsibility to do so. And clearly in this case, that is not what happened. The young lady, Ma'Khia Bryant, was wielding a knife. And she was wielding a knife, and that officer shot her. Now, could he have prevented killing her? I believe so. Did he have to shoot at her 4 damn times? Hell no, I don't believe that for 1 second. Does all of those things validate LeBron's anger? I believe it does. But here's where the problem lies. As a police officer that I know, a former police officer that I know, text me this, says, "An officer may use deadly force to prevent serious injury or death to another person. We are trained to shoot center mass, the largest part of the body, to stop the action." That's their training. Now, we can lament that. We can lament the laws in Ohio and various other places that allow police officers to use deadly force, like it was just explained to me. But the reality is that for all intent and purposes, no matter how much we lament the decision that the police officer made, the officer was clearly within his right to do so because he was preventing serious injury to another human being, not himself. And that officer was called to the scene because the person was wielding a knife. He didn't know what was going on, but he walked into a dangerous situation. Again, we can debate whether or not a better decision should have been made. I think it could have been made. You shoot him in the leg, or you use a taser gun or something. Why is it that white folks can shoot at people, kill people, and end up being arrested, but unarmed black people are dead? That's a different subject. This person had a knife about to stab somebody else. I saw the video. And so when you take that into consideration, and even LeBron backtracked because he recognized he could have educated himself a bit more. Unfortunately, for those who want to hate and those who want to find something wrong with him, who want to ignore his contributions to our community and beyond, and the iconic figure that he has been, and the incredible role model that he continues to be, those people who want to ignore that and were looking for incremental evidence to the contrary, to point a finger at him, one of the rare moments happened with LeBron. He handed it to them on a silver platter, and the National Fraternal Order of Police validated that with their statement, because they are not wrong with what they said about this specific incident in terms of what LeBron James' initial reaction was. They were not wrong how they came at LeBron James at all.
The only thing I would say is that they didn't need to use the word disgraceful. In other words, the National Fraternal Order of Police, if they want to be constructive, and as a body comprised of law enforcement officers, they should have called on LeBron to take down the tweet. They said it's extremely reckless, that he should gather the facts, because look at LeBron's response. Did he double down and arrogantly say, to hell with the facts, I'm leaving that tweet up? No, he took down the tweet. And he said, I have to gather the facts. He agreed with them on the substance.
Hey, Max, before you go on, I think it was the picture. Yes. I think it was the picture of the officer. I think the word disgraceful came from the fact that you put the picture of the officer up there with your next. I think that's what they're saying disgraceful was. That's what they were talking about. I
agree, but let's talk about what your next could possibly mean. You either have to have extremely low comprehension, or you have to be not a good faith actor, meaning not arguing in good faith, but really having a secret agenda. If you are making the argument that LeBron meant anything else than the legal system when he said you're next. This is coming a day after the Derek Chauvin verdict. An officer was caught murdering a black man. He was convicted on all 3 counts. LeBron hashtags accountability, shows his picture saying, you're next. Now, he admits he needs to gather more facts. He took down the tweet. That's the responsible thing to do. We don't expect people to be perfect, but they should be responsible and clean up mistakes. Did he ever call for violence or insinuate violence? No, he didn't. I'm sorry. Again, the only way you can think that is if you simply have low comprehension, or if you're lying to curry political favor with your constituency, as some politicians have done, unless they, in fact, have low comprehension. Look, LeBron didn't dox this officer. Did he privately acquire some information and publicly then display the officer's face? Clearly, this is already public information. He didn't do, people are misusing phrases and ideas here. They're sloppy with language and they're sloppy with thinking, and I believe it's intentional. Stephen A., I agree with your criticism of LeBron, being that he is in a leadership position. More is expected of his behavior. He's expected to behave more perfectly than others, but not perfectly. And the most we can, he didn't do anything so reckless as for calling for violence against the officer, releasing information that wasn't already public against the officer. He didn't do either of those things. He simply tweeted before he had all the information and then took down the tweet in response. I would say that people, we should ask ourselves, are the voices that are so outraged by LeBron right now, how outraged were they about Derek Chauvin in the first place? Now, to be fair, the National Fraternal Order of Police was against Derek Chauvin. I'm not talking about them right now. I'm talking about politicians and other voices who were silent then and loud now over a relatively benign mistake on LeBron's part that was cleaned up.
First of all, Max, you're not paying attention. I'm not criticizing LeBron. I completely support LeBron. I'm just saying they will. And if I'm being critical of anything, it's him not saying that they would jump on this and use it for their own means initially. With his corrective tweet, he saw that. But the initial tweet is not a mistake he customarily makes because he sees that. So I think that's incredibly important. Number 2, with the Derek Chauvin, can we please stop bringing him up when it comes to, people who were silent? Max, I got to tell you, man, as you know, it's not just my appearances on all the networks and stuff like that, and the people that I know in both the progressive and the conservative communities. I got to tell you, Max, I didn't see anyone who spoke out in favor of Derek Chauvin. Everybody, if there was ever a time where universally everybody looked at a situation and instantly knew that officer was wrong, that was it. Because I got to tell you, I did not hear it. Now, maybe I missed it, but I did not hear, nor did I see on the left, on the right, in the middle, black, white, Asian, Hispanic. I did not see one person that saw that video of Derek Chauvin on George Floyd's neck and thinks for 1 second there was anything remotely right.
That's not what I'm saying, though, Stephen A.
That never happened.
I hear you. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is part of the impression people get about networks, media outlets, individuals, and their point of view is how much time they spend on a subject. What's the level of outrage? What do they choose to focus on? That's the editorial process that takes place with individuals. So what I'm saying is, right. So what I'm saying is, for those who would be so outraged by LeBron's behavior, which was simply he got emotional and he acted before he thought it all the way through, and then when it was pointed out to him, he corrected, right? You really want to focus attention on that? Were you focusing the same attention on police interactions with communities of color when the Derek Chauvin trial was going on, when the verdict came out? Or were you instead focusing on, who wants to be a police officer now? They have very hard jobs. What were you focusing on?
The argument doesn't hold water right now because LeBron just did the tweet last night. Now, if he did it and we were talking about this a week from now still, that would be problematic. But you can't knock anybody when the tweet just happened last night.
Yeah. Max, I understand what you're saying. The outrage and the ire should be directed towards Chauvin to begin with. But unfortunately, I think what Stephen A. is saying is some people have already made their minds up before the fact. So this is just another reason to jump on LeBron. So as blessed as he is, sometimes it feels like that man has the weight of the world on his shoulders and is forced to be perfect. I want to mention Derek Chauvin facing sentencing in 8 weeks. Gentlemen, experts saying he'll likely be in protective custody or even serve out of state. When we come back here on First Take, I find it hard to believe, first of all, that he intentionally meant to kill George Floyd. That being said, his actions were uncalled for. I don't care what color the person is on the street. I don't know what led to that video that we saw where his knee is on his neck, but that man had thrown in the towel. Favre said last week on the Andrew Klavan show he wanted politics out of sports because he believed it was hurting games and agreed with people deciding not to watch sports anymore. Axe? What do you think of Brett Favre's comments?
Well, it's hypocritical of him, of course, to say politics should be out of sports unless it's his politics. I don't think Brett Favre is being dishonest here, though. I think Brett Favre believes what he's saying because it's an issue of empathy. I think he, in this case, is having an empathetic connection with Chauvin and maybe not with George Floyd. And he's thinking to himself, it's hard to relate to someone who would sit on someone's neck, especially a law enforcement official, a cop. He's thinking that's the good guy, right? Why is he sitting on someone's neck? Why would he mean to kill him? And he finds it hard to get his mind around that. I believe he's being honest, if sort of misguided in his thinking. But I think there's a larger issue here, Stephen A. I don't even think Brett Favre sees that he's interjecting his opinion here, and it's an overlap of politics and social issues and sports when he says what he says. And this gets back to Kaepernick for me. Stephen A., remember, my whole point about Kaepernick, when people said he's injecting politics into sports, is in fact, if kneeling during the national anthem is speech and protest, then surely standing is also speech, right? If one is speech, then the other is also speech. And so my larger point was those who say, no, this is a national anthem. This isn't political. Everyone has to stand in ways they don't even realize, in fact, are injecting sports with politics. As soon as you have a ceremony like that where lack of participation is viewed as a political statement, then the ceremony itself is political. whether you like it or not. But that's not the way a lot of people see it. It's confusing for them. Wait a minute. We're all in America. We have to love America. This is the way it works. And so that's okay. That's not political. Favre simply doesn't understand that. He didn't understand that then. And I think when he talks like he talks now, after saying we shouldn't have politics, with sports, I don't like it, he doesn't even understand that what he's really saying is we shouldn't have politics other than my own. We shouldn't have people's worldviews on social issues other than my own. He just views his own as the default setting. And that's a lot of what these protests are about. The default setting throughout our country's history seems to be the view of white America. And what people have been saying and athletes have been saying and protests in our streets have been saying is that normal doesn't work for everyone. We need a new normal. And Favre has viewed, it seems to me, through his comments over the last several years, the new normal as political, the old normal as just normal and apolitical. And he's wrong about that. I don't think he's lying. I don't even think he has ill will here, Stephen A. I think he's only capable at this moment of seeing it from one narrow perspective.
I actually like Brett Favre. I like him a lot. I know I've been critical of him in the past, those last years in the NFL because he was a bit prima donna-ish in terms of not making up his mind as to whether or not he wanted to retire or not. But I've had the pleasure of meeting him on several occasions. I actually genuinely like him. I could say I'm disappointed in these comments, but I don't think that's really what this is about, to be quite honest with you. I'm going to tell you what I think it's about. I think it's the epitome of white privilege, and I think that Brett Favre would do himself a service by simply saying, look, I'm a white guy, I'm a black guy, I just don't get it. I'm not a black guy, I just don't get it. Because he doesn't get it. And that's really what this comes down to. On far too many occasions, again, thinking about the people that I know in the community, the people that I know in terms of on the left side and with the progressives, on the right side with conservatives. There have been many conservatives that I've spoken to in the past. I know Sean Hannity. I know Mark Levin and these guys, and I respect the hell out of them. They know I don't agree with them most of the time, but I'm certainly not going to castigate them because of some of the positions that they've taken. What I would say is that on many, many occasions when I'm highlighting something, I'm simply saying that as a black person, you just don't know. Numbers don't always tell the story. There's so many things that happen to black people that you don't realize that, that don't get recorded, that don't get told. Think about it from the standpoint of the lovely 17-year-old that videotaped Derek Chauvin that Molly brought up yesterday. If she hadn't videotaped it, you also pointed out, Max, what the news headlines were about George Floyd's murder. We would have never known if we didn't have the video showing what Derek Chauvin did to George Floyd. And so many times the true stories don't get told. And so when somebody like Brett Favre comes along, and Brett Favre is of the mentality, I don't want politics, I don't want this in my life, I don't believe this was the case. It's because a lot of times white folks make this huge mistake, and I hope white folks of America, over America, are watching me right now with what I'm about to say. If you're not racist and you're not prejudiced and you don't engage in heinous acts, you don't exercise entitlement, you don't look at yourself as above, people because of the color of their skin, and you don't act and conduct yourself that way, and more importantly, you speak out against those who look like you but think like that, okay? We're not talking about you. The reason why it's important to mention that, Max, is because what you're seeing from the Brett Favres of the world and a plethora of folks throughout white America are people who personalize things as if you're talking about them, like they would do something like that. So they inherently feel this insatiable, just gravitation towards coming to the defense of somebody because they actually look at it as defending themselves, as if we're talking about them, when that's absolutely positively not the case. Brett Favre wouldn't have done something like that. The individuals that I mentioned earlier wouldn't have done something like that. But when they see us going off and they look at the white population in this country that was once over 80% and is now dwindled to 60% and is sliding, and they see the elevation of minority communities coming into this country, et cetera, they're worried. And because they're worried about what they're witnessing here, they feel this need to hold on to something, to act like they're being victimized when they're not realizing what black folks are saying is, excuse me, the numbers don't tell the whole story. And we're incredibly victimized. And you can't relate because it doesn't happen to you. It's hard for them to grasp that reality sometimes. And that's where we are. That's where Brett Favre is.
All right. I'll leave you with this. So in response to Favre's comments, former NFL receiver Torrey Smith retweeted this. I'm 1,000% comfortable saying if it isn't about playing quarterback, don't ask Brett Favre. Before we go to break, Stephen A., I understand you had something you wanted to enlighten us on here.
Yeah, yesterday when Spike Lee was on, I brought up ownership. I brought up D. Wade in Utah. Didn't seem right.
Yep.
Shaq in Sacramento instead of L.A. Didn't seem right, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I got a call from the Miami Heat yesterday. I haven't been able to reach Dwayne Wade, but according to folks in Miami, Dwayne Wade was offered an ownership stake.
Going to be wild. Kamaru Usman defending his welterweight title against this man, UFC star, friend of the show, Jorge Masvidal. Jorge, thank you so much for being with us, sir, making some time. I know you're busy, a couple days away. I want to talk about the main event, though. So obviously you lost to Usman last time you guys were together in the octagon. He was with us yesterday. Here's what he had to say. Please listen.
First of all, we call him George. We don't call him Jorge. He don't get Jorge. It's George, you know. And yes, I give credit where credit is due. He's a good fighter, which is why he's still around. He's been around for all these years because he's a good fighter. But I'm a great fighter. I'm an elite fighter. You know, there's a separation. There's levels to this, which is why, you know, look at my record. Look at his record. Look how many fights he's had. And look how many fights I've had, you know, to become champion and to continue to reign as champion. You know, the reason he's in this position right now is because I put him there. You know, he's a good fighter, very, very good fighter. I take nothing away from him. But there's levels to this, and I'm levels above him.
So there's levels to this. He's levels above you. He's not calling you by your government name. Jorge, what do you have to say?
Well, for starters, my parents gave me that name, you know, so I find it disrespectful. That's why I address him by his name, you know. And I'm an immigrant, of course. My parents are immigrants, so my name is Jorge. It's not nothing other, but it doesn't matter what he says or what he doesn't. Because Saturday we're gonna fight, and when I break his jaw, he won't be able to pronounce any name, so it doesn't really matter to me.
Jorge, man, it's always good to see you, my brother. It really, really is. I got to ask you, do you believe, when you talk about breaking this jaw, we all know you're capable of anything with those fists, but I must ask you, do you believe that's the way you're going to have to beat him? Because obviously, even though he can do a lot of things, he's primarily known as a grappler, a wrestler. Do you believe that's the only way you can win this fight against him?
Breaking jaws, bones, cheekbones. Last time I broke his nose with 6-day notice. I'm gonna play doctor on his face. I'm just gonna slice and dice. Whatever I catch, I'm gonna take home with me. You know, I see a very violent ending no matter what. I just want to get in there and compete.
Jorge, you have, obviously you're a very creative, like inventive, resourceful striker, hands, legs, everything. And you also have a deep kind of bag of skills. You can wrestle, you can do all those things. But he is probably, with Habib out of the sport, at least for now, I'd say he's probably the best wrestler, the best guy on the ground in MMA, or at least in the UFC right now. So your wrestling seems to me more like I'm staying out of trouble. Are you trying to keep this fight standing up and avoiding going down? And what do you think of his striking skills, which have seemed to me to improve over the last year or two?
Well, I just fought him months ago, maybe like 8-9 months ago, and then I just saw his last fight. I still think he's the same robotic, stiff mummy that he was 8-9 months ago. His grappling is good for when he's fighting other grapplers because he can defend very well. But offensively, I'll tell you this much: it's nothing special. It's not nothing that I haven't dealt with. I've fought better grapplers like Damian Maia. They can finish guys, you know, guys that are actually mean, that are trying to finish you, you know. He's a guy that's trying to hold, you know. We saw it evident in my fight that every chance he got, just press me up against the cage and do absolutely nothing but rub feet. That's what he chose to do. So I don't put his offensive wrestling better than my defensive wrestling. I think he does very well when he competes against other grapplers that he can neutralize their grappling. But offensively, I don't think he's that good, and he got tired in our fight. You know, there's no way that he takes a fight on 6-day notice with 20 pounds of cut, and I don't finish that guy. That's my mentality. That's how I am. I'm not gonna let you just walk out of here like nothing happened, like you didn't get in the fight. And you know that toenail that's next to your pinky nail, that's the only thing that he bruised on me. That's the only thing that let people know that I was in a fight. That my toenail was slightly bruised, so it's just a different mindset, me and him. You know, he likes to hug men. I like to knock men out.
You do like to knock men out, and I remember when you and I were talking in Vegas, I talked about your style and what you bring to the table, and I think that if you win and you win in a kind of spectacular fashion that you're giving every indication you will win in, you know, when I think about this sport, I think about what Conor McGregor once was. I think about Francis Ngannou and what he is now. And I look at you as a box office attraction. And so I think about it from that perspective. How important is this fight to you as it pertains to your career? I mean, could you tell us where you stand right now as to what this win or win over Usman would mean for your career moving forward in the UFC?
When I win, it's everything. You know, every fight going forward, every fight that I always have in front of me is the most important fight. The one before this one, 10 fights before this one, because I wouldn't get here if it wasn't for the fight. Besides the fact that I've been chasing this title for a very long time, it just, wow. It's kind of hard to express it, but it would mean a lot, you know. It'd be starting a new chapter in my life, and I can't wait.
Jorge, you keep bringing up the fact, and it's legitimate, I had this much time to cut this much weight, took it at the last minute. He couldn't stop me. I mean, like, he stopped Covington. He stopped guys, real good fighters recently, but he couldn't stop you in spite of the fact that you had very little time to prepare. But can you be specific? What's going to be different about the extra time? How is that going to actually affect what you do in the octagon coming up against him?
Well, last time we spoke on the show, I was about 19 pounds, 20 pounds away. Right now, as I stand, I'm 7 pounds away. So all that energy that it's going to take to lose that weight, or that I would have used to lose that weight, I'm going to use it on Usman's face to break his face, you know. So he's going to have to go with me from the start to the end at a different pace that he doesn't have built in him. So he's going to immediately go into the hugging mode. And we've been working since the day I competed against this individual. I've been working on nothing but neutralizing all that man hugging and foot rubbing stuff. So as soon as we get into the fight, all he has to deal with is me trying to take his head off and him trying to hug me. And we're more than ready for the hugging.
You and Ben Askren obviously have a history. You beat him in 5 seconds at UFC 239. What did you have to say about Askren's loss to Jake Paul this past weekend?
And all I got to say is I told you so. I told everybody the MMA world was mad at me that, you know, he was representing MMA. Never, not once was he representing MMA. How dare anybody say that guy's representing MMA when every interview he's ever done about strikers has been, I don't need to strike. I could just wrestle these guys to the ground. And he's been saying that on interviews for 10 years plus. So now we're supposed to get behind this guy that doesn't respect mixed martial arts, because it is mixed martial arts. It's not just wrestling or just boxing, you know? So obviously when he went in there, I mean,
Jorge.
I called it. I was the first guy to call it. Yes.
Jorge, Jake Paul's been calling out Cormier and different guys. You're known as a striker. If Jake Paul calls you out, what's your response?
You ain't calling me out, man. Come from, bro. Max Kellerman, I've been watching you since I'm 13 years old. You know what boxing is, what striking is. You've also heard the terms of great white hype and stuff like that. Hey, Jake Paul ain't calling me out, man. I'm telling you, it's not happening, you know. And I don't mind it. I don't mind some easy money, man. But I didn't grow up in the Disney Channel. I didn't grow up trying to be a famous movie star or any of that stuff, you know. I grew up in a boxing gym. I grew up in a striking gym, in a wrestling mat. Weekends, instead of going to parties and networking with people and finding out who's eating what, I was at the gym. I was running my mouth, getting my road work in. I'm not going to get called out by a Disney movie star. It's not going to happen. I respect what he's doing, that he can come into boxing and bring all these eyeballs in there and stuff like that, but he ain't calling me out. It's not happening. We would, my whole team be excited as hell. We got a lot of people be excited as hell because that'd be a nice paycheck, but he's going to, I predict he's not going to fight anybody dangerous in this next fight either. And it's not to diss him or nothing. He's got to get some experience in there, but why would he call out anybody that could break his jaw, you know?
Hey, Molly. Molly,
Yeah.
I before we end, I don't have a question. I just wanted to say I'm very happy with what Jorge just said. You know what? I respect what the hell Jake Paul is doing in terms of bringing attention, but he needs to fight people that actually box. And when it comes to Masvidal, you're a championship caliber fighter. The hell with that. You got to earn the right to get in the presence of Jorge Masvidal. You don't just sit up there and ask for it. No. You got to earn it. You got to earn that. No.
Well,
don't waste your time.
When it comes to
Don't
throwing
waste your
hands,
time.
when it comes to throwing hands, the guy who comes into the ring with Roberto Duran probably knows what he's doing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my thing, you know. While these
Jorge
guys
Masvidal.
Disney Channel.
You're right.
Yeah, no Disney Channel for you. No fairy tales, just breaking jaws. Jorge, thank you so much for the time. We'll
Thanks
be
a lot,
watching
bro.
you Saturday night. It's going to be a great event, great card,
Good luck.
UFC 261. Check that out, everybody. All right. Coming up tomorrow, projected #1 pick, Trevor Lawrence, will go one-on-one with Stephen A. You don't want to miss that interview. And quarterback, and instead calls it an open competition. That wasn't the only thing making news. He spoke even further about gauging competition amongst draft prospects. Take a listen for yourself.
And if you guys are wondering, I'll tell you, I think some of you guys are wondering, like, what game? We didn't go earth-shattering on these games, right? I played a couple of them at rock, paper, scissors, right? That was as easy as that. Rock, paper, scissors. Let's see how competitive you are. I'm competitive. I'm going to be talking trash to them. Did you talk trash back to me, right? Jeopardy. There's different ways to do it.
All right, that brings us to today's NFL Draft Blitz. Take a look at the Philadelphia Eagles draft notes here. Eagles with the 12th overall pick being projected to take a wide receiver, Jalen Waddle, out of Alabama. Stephen A., with Sirianni saying he won't name Hurts the starter, do you think Jalen Hurts is being disrespected?
I think so, but I just want to say something. I have this look on my face because Nick Sirianni is not exactly Adam Gase. I don't want to go that far. He doesn't look high. Okay, doesn't look high. But his press conferences are very weird. There's something very non-football, and it's just a little bit different, bordering on bizarre. Now, it might be entertaining now.
Bizarre.
And it is, you know, I mean, the man just brought up Jeopardy and rock, paper, scissors when being asked questions. Yeah. That's just not something you're accustomed to hearing. Now, you don't have to say the same old stuff that all of these other coaches say, but damn, it is a little bit different. And I will say this, okay? And I am unapologetic. Nobody can dispute the fact that I'm an expert with what I'm about to say. If this man struggles, those press conferences will not be funny. I promise you that. He better change it up, because the stuff that he's doing in these press conferences with the media,
lying?
they remember this. I
Why are you
am
lying?
I am the former reporter and columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer. I am the one who was in those rooms for 17 years. I know what I'm saying about Philadelphia. Angelo Cataldi, one of the great morning radio hosts of all time, he's still there with Rhea Hughes and the crew. With their radio, Mike Missinelli and the boys. I mean, they will eat him alive if this man act like that and they ain't winning games. So I'm just telling y'all right now.
If they start losing, those press conferences are going to be hilarious. As you would say, why are you lying to the American people? And the number one guy who's going to make them hilarious is you. I'm going to get to watch you imitate Coach like every day if they start losing. They're going to be hilarious, those press conferences. What are you talking about? They're not going to be funny. They won't be funny for him. They'll be funny for the rest of us. Rock, paper, scissors. How about watching tape? The tape don't lie. You want to know how competitive someone is? Jalen Hurts is not being disrespected here. Look, he's a promising young quarterback. He is. You saw it in the Arizona game. Even in a loss, there were flashes where you go, that kid can play, right? And he's going up against Kyler Murray and another really good young quarterback, and you go, that he belongs. But there was enough inconsistency to still have questions, right? I wouldn't say there's a slam dunk. Oh, he's for sure going to be a great quarterback in the NFL, but I wouldn't rule it out either that he's going to be a very good quarterback. So I wouldn't say he's being disrespected. And Stephen A., one of the issues is the team responded very well to Jalen Hurts. But the fact of the matter is the team responded to almost every quarterback that wasn't Carson Wentz very well. And even at times, Carson Wentz, they responded to well. I just look at Wentz when he was there. Whenever they had another quarterback in, the team came to life. Nick Foles, the team came to life. They won the Super Bowl, although they were very good with Carson Wentz. The next year, they were dead, flat. Nick Foles, they came to life again. I even think about Josh McCown when he came in the playoff game. They didn't lose to Seattle any worse than they lost in the regular season with Wentz under center. McCown was on one good leg, and he was 40 years old. So, I think it is question. The team responded well to Hurts, but how much of that is just he wasn't Carson Wentz? So there's reasons to have hope, and there's also reasons to maybe want to hedge your bets. I would not say putting him in a competition is disrespectful to Jalen Hurts.
I would say to you it's disrespectful when the backup is Joe Flacco. I say that. I'm in a competition with Joe Flacco. At this stage of point in his career, this ain't 2012.
Didn't he win a Super Bowl?
Yeah, I said this ain't 2012. I'm in a competition with Joe Flacco. Hell yeah, it's disrespectful. You traded away Carson Wentz, okay? You traded away Carson Wentz in part because you have me. You brought in this new coach that we don't know whether he's Gason or not. We have no clue. We assume he's not, but we don't know. You got Jalen Reagor as a wide receiver, okay? You got Fulgham as another dude. You're talking about drafting Jalen Waddle, all right, out of Alabama. I'm like, Joe Flacco's my backup, and you can't even say coming into training camp, it's my job unless I lose it. We all know you got to keep the job, Matt, but you can't sit up there and say definitively to open training camp, this is our starting quarterback for now, with Joe Flacco as the alternative.
I want to see a Sirianni impersonation.
That is disrespectful.
How would you do a Sirianni impersonation? That's what I want to know.
I'm not. I haven't mastered that yet. I haven't mastered that yet.
He doesn't have enough film yet.
I haven't mastered that yet, but I just got to tell you.
Real thespians put in the work.
It ain't
you can't make him just do it on the spot like that.
But it's very Gase-like.
Okay. Settle down, Tiger. Settle down.
Gase-like.
Over the last 4 games, Jalen Hurts had a QBR and completion percentage 23rd in the league amongst quarterbacks. Guys, let's go to the Patriots, shall we? Continuing with our NFL draft blitz, we move on to New England. The Pats hold the number 15 pick in this year's draft. Right now are projected to take quarterback Mac Jones, 7th overall, after a trade with the Lions. In all of Bill Belichick's tenure as head coach, the team has never addressed the quarterback position in the first round. Obviously, we know why. Elephant in the room. Max's favorite quarterback. Max, do you think drafting a quarterback should be a priority? Priority number 1, that is, for Bill Belichick.
No, I don't. Because when you do it that way, especially if you're not picking first overall, what you start to do is kind of wish a guy into existence, right? Like, well, maybe and even if it's not the guy, I don't think that's Bill Belichick's style anyway. But if there was a quarterback that he loved, if he loves Trey Lance or Mac Jones and they slip enough where he can make a little move up and grab him, he already said, theoretically, he would do something like that. But you don't do it just because quarterback needs to be a priority. And I'll tell you why. I think people are snoring on Cam Newton. I'll remind everyone, with no weapons, in a brand new situation, coming off catastrophic injury, into a COVID year with no preseason, with the facilities shut down a lot, and then he got COVID. Cam Newton came 2 plays away from being 9-7. As it was, he was 7-9, with a slew of wins against good quality teams. You mean to tell me in year 2 he's going to be worse? No, I think if Belichick hits on some weapons in the draft on offense, if he hits on some targets for Cam Newton and some guys to help him out, that the Patriots will be very competitive to win the division, even with the Bills and the Dolphins looking really good this year with Cam Newton. So if he sees the right quarterback, Stephen A., grab him. But don't just make quarterback a priority, frankly, because it doesn't need to be at this moment.
Max Kellerman, with all due respect, you sound clueless. And you sound clueless because just the other day you were sitting there talking about how the New York Giants should draft a quarterback even though they got Daniel Jones, who just started in the damn league, for crying out loud. Last year with COVID don't count, but Cam Newton is approaching 32 if he's not already 32. Clearly, he's not the running quarterback that he used to be. He's incredibly athletic. You know, we all understand that, but there has been some slippage in that regard because of attrition and what has happened to his body from a durability perspective due to injuries. We all know he hasn't been the most accurate passer in the world. We're looking at how they're bereft of weapons at the wideout spot, even though they just acquired Nelson Aguilar and Hunter Henry as your tight end there with Nelson Aguilar as a receiver. But the bottom line is there's some huge question marks about this team, this offense, and primarily about its quarterback. So if those questions exist, why would you not draft a quarterback if you're in a position to do so when we all know it would be one of the five? Not Trevor Lawrence, but a Justin Fields, a Trey Lance, a Zach Wilson, etc., or Mac Jones. It's going to be one of those four if they were to draft a quarterback. Why would you sit up there and say the New England Patriots, who obviously have a quarterback that's a huge question mark in Cam Newton, and we all know Daniel Jones has never been league MVP and the resume doesn't compare, but he's also considerably young. He just got here. Why would you say don't bother drafting a quarterback for New England, but insist that the New York Giants draft a quarterback?
Well, first of all, I love the old Max, no disrespect, but you're a fool, number one. And number two, you're not listening. I'm making the same argument for